Welcome to Parenthood Bites, the podcast where we explore life as a parent in tech. I'm your host, Chow, and I have over 15 years of experience in tech, and I'm also currently working as a career coach. I'm the proud mother of 3 incredible boys. In each episode, we have an inspiring guest who will share their remarkable story. You'll find their wisdom and insights both relatable and enriching, because after all, we're all in this parenting journey together. So grab your favorite drink, get cozy, and let's dive into today's episode. Hi everyone, welcome to episode 34 of Parenthood Bites. We're here today with David Spark, who is the co-host, producer, and managing editor of the CISO Series, a media network for cybersecurity professionals. Hi David, how are you?
I am great. It's so great to see you. Again, we worked like feet from each other in another life. Have you interviewed other past coworkers?
I have, but not from...
Not from Publicis.
You're the first one.
Oh, well, I'm honored. You didn't want to talk to any of the others except just me. Great.
Exactly. So thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
And I remember back when we were at Publicis, you had a podcast then, right?
I was recording for Publicis for their clients, and it was Sprint. We produced the very first podcast ever for Sprint. And just very briefly, quick story, it took us an entire year to convince them to do it. And I remember I used to walk by a hole in the ground for where they was doing construction to take the bus to go to the office. And in the time that it took Sprint to agree to do the podcast and for us to actually launch that podcast, I watched a 3-story building go up.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That just goes to show you how difficult it was working with them. And the thing was, what actually finally got them to do it was the Wall Street Journal published an article about big businesses are now releasing podcasts. And I was like, yeah, we talked about this 9 months ago. If you listened back then, you would have been in the article. But that's what finally convinced them to do it, because they read it in the Wall Street Journal.
Wow. What a way to convince them.
Well, finally it happened.
Yeah. So how many kids do you have and what are their ages?
I have 2 boys. They are aged 10 and 13.
Oh, that's neat. That's pretty close to my kids. I have 3 boys and they're 13, 12, and 8.
Oh, wow.
So kind of around the same range.
Is that too much testosterone around the house for you to have all those boys?
Yeah, it is a bit. So that's why I got a girl dog to balance it out.
Girl dog to balance it out? Yeah, I'm sure that all worked out perfectly fine for you. I'll tell you, I am one of 4. I have 3 older sisters. And supposedly the story is that when I was born, the doctor said to my mother, "It's a boy, you can stop now." Yeah.
And then she stopped, right?
Yeah, I was the last one.
So what brought you to tech?
Oh, I've been, a nerd since, age 9 or 10 when I got my very first computer, which was I would say, no, at that age, at around 10, I was playing with the computer at the school, which they had a computer in a room in a long hallway. And then they got a couple of computers in the library, which were the TRS-80s. But between that time, I'm going to guess around age 11, I got a TI 99-4A. That's a Texas Instrument computer. And that I learned to do your basic programming. And that's when I became a nerd. So I've been in tech for a long time. And I used to work as the IT guy for an ad agency too at one time. But I'm not like, you're an engineer. You really do the tech. I became a tech journalist, so I report on technology. Again, the last time it was like the early 90s, I actually did the job. So it's been a long, long time.
But you've been around the tech industry for a very...
I've been around it, yes. I talk to people who know a lot more about this than I do.
And I was really interested about your podcast. Tell me about the CISO Series.
So the CISO Series it's a whole network of shows. We have multiple shows. We have 5 shows in our network. We're in fact in the process of building a 6th show. And it's all about cybersecurity. And we very much focus on cybersecurity leadership. So CISO stands for Chief Information Security Officer. And that person is the topmost person in the sort of cybersecurity department at any given company. And so we talk about the difficulties of having that role, getting that role, hiring, specific cybersecurity challenges. And then we have different shows for sort of different needs. Like we have a daily news show that's only 6 to 7 minutes long. We have a live show where people get to engage and have fun and we play games on it. And then we have a show where we do a deep dive on one topic. And then we have a competitive show that's kind of like Shark Tank to a little bit. And then we got a new show that's going to be coming up that's going to be more, well, they're all education element, but they're very, very education focused, the new show.
That's interesting. I love Shark Tank, so I feel like I need to check out that show.
What's different about Shark Tank is that there's actually no demos on the show. The thing that really our audience wants is they want that conversation the CISO, again, the head of security, has with a security vendor, and they want to hear that conversation. And so that's what the show is. And actually, I don't know when this episode is going to air, but our very first episode of that show is dropping Wednesday, 2 days from when we're recording this. So late April, if anyone's listening, you'll be able to go to our site, CISOseries.com, click the Capture the CISO icon and listen.
So this episode will release on June 10th.
Okay, so the winner of the whole season will have already been announced by that time, too.
So I will link to it for sure for people who want to hear it. So how many years were you in tech when you became a parent?
Oh, that's a really good question. Many decades. Let's leave it at that. I became a parent in my 40s. So so I was already in it for a few decades. It'd been a while. And also, being in Silicon Valley area where I was originally, I'm now in Southern California. Even if you're not in tech, everyone out there is in tech. Like, how often, let me ask you, Chow, how often do you go to a party and meet someone who's like a lawyer or a doctor who literally does not work in tech at all? How often does that happen?
Very, very seldom.
Rarely.
I think I've only met like one doctor, not at the hospital, out in the wild.
Yeah, right. Out in the wild. Yeah, they do. They lit them out of the hospital.
Yeah. But mostly, they're in a tech company or in a tech role, somewhat related to tech industry.
Yeah. The Bay Area is a different egg. I'll leave it at that. It's weird. Like when you meet someone who doesn't work in technology, it's like, how'd they let you in here?
Yeah. Do you really live here? I mean, just walking out the door, there's probably like 10 Teslas out there. That's how I know where I am.
Mm-hmm.
So with your kids being 10 and 13, what do you do for childcare now?
Well, at 10 and 13, they're pretty self-sufficient. We feel comfortable leaving them at home alone for a few hours here and there. We won't go on vacation for a few days at that age, but if we're close by, we can go to dinner and they're comfortable at home. And the 13-year-old boy is quite mature and he can handle himself. And he has good friends and we trust them. And so when they're around, they're good as well. The 10-year-old, we don't feel as comfortable leaving alone for that long, but he's been left alone for like an hour or two here and there. It's no big deal. I mean, you kind of learn that with your own kids as to when is that moment I feel comfortable walking out the door.
Yeah. Yeah.
with them. I mean, you have one that's a little bit younger. 8, I think you said the youngest.
Yeah.
So it's a little on the young side for that. But having older kids, supporting that, you feel comfortable with that. Yes? No? How do you feel?
Yeah. I mean, we felt comfortable leaving him with his 2 older brothers, definitely not alone.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they joked about how we can go on vacation and leave them at home. And I'm like, what are you going to do? You can't cook. They're like, we'll eat Lunchables and then we'll walk to grandma's house and she can cook for us. So there you go.
Oh, is grandma's house walkable?
Not quite for those little legs.
Yeah.
It's walkable, but it takes a while. So
yeah, my grandma's their grandma is about over 3,000 miles. So it's definitely not walkable.
Yeah, definitely. So how has your work life changed since you became a parent?
That's a good question. I mean, I force myself to make time for them. I mean, just literally moments before this recording, my youngest came in. He was asking help for a math question, which, by the way, as someone who did very well in math and actually has an undergraduate degree in math, I am shocked at how I'm confused by 5th grade math.
They do it differently
They
now,
do it
right?
very differently. And just the way they describe things, I'm like, what? Who would describe it like that? And so I stop myself and go, why am I getting stumped by 5th grade math? But it's not the actual math. It's how they're trying to explain things. And again, part of learning math is to try to decipher stuff. I mean, it is part of the thing that he has to learn, but man, it definitely hits me for a loop. And the whole Common Core philosophy of math. Did you have to go through that?
No.
Oh,
I mean, I have to go through that with my kids.
Right, with your kids. But yeah, that's what I'm
with
saying.
the kids. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Does it confuse you?
I told them to go ask their dad.
Really? No, but I mean, I'm
Yeah.
assuming you did. Did you do decently in math? You're a good math student. You're an engineer. I got to assume
Yes.
so. So that's the
Yes.
thing. How is it that someone of your intelligence can get confused by grade school math? Why is that?
They just made it too confusing now. I don't know why. I don't know how. They just made it really confusing.
Too confusing for your brain, not for theirs. That's the thing.
Yeah. Even my son's, my second grade son, his teacher was like, if you get stuck on their math, don't worry about it. I got stuck the first time I did it too. Just tell them to come ask me.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
That's yeah. You. By the way, nothing sort of humbles you more as a parent than when you look at some of that Common Core math problems and you can't figure it out, and you're like, "Am I an idiot? Wait a second. Did I forget
Yeah.
everything?"
Absolutely. So you were helping him with
Yeah.
that?
Luckily, it wasn't Common Core, but it was something. But he figured it out anyway. So
Yeah.
I'm like, glad I could help you. He actually does. My youngest, well, both boys do very well. They're good. They're good students, both of my kids. So especially the older one, he's very self sufficient. Rarely does he ask for our help at all.
That's great.
It's been reasonably easy.
Yeah, my kids have not. I think the youngest one asks more, which right now, second grade, I can still handle. But the older ones, their homework is getting really hard. I'm like, I don't know. Eighth grade, right? Your older one is in.
Yeah, he's going to be going to high school next year. But the thing that I'm most impressed by, so like one of the things my oldest boy has done, he's been part of a media class, broadcasting, as they call it, and they have their own channel at the school. And I actually taught myself just basic video editing when I was a publicist. I did some editing of some stuff, and I learned that at my 30 how to do video editing. Not a great video. I learned it. And my son has learned it, of which I think this is a common skill most kids are learning too, for that matter. He's learned it when he was 12. And I constantly am like amazed by like, you know this at 12. I learned it in my 30s. Like, here's what I liken it to. You learned how to use Excel. I'm assuming you know how to use
Hmm.
Excel, right?
Yep.
You're not an accountant
Hmm.
though, but you know how to use Excel. Because for our generation, I'm older, but still both of our generations, it was just something everyone learned, whether you were an accountant or not. Like everyone learned how to touch type too. And I think in your kids' generation and my kids' generation, learning how to video edit is going to be a common skill everyone's going to have, like learning how to use Excel. And it doesn't mean that everyone's going to become a videographer or a cinematographer or a filmmaker, but they're all going to have that basic skill, like learning how to touch type. It's their touch type, if you will.
That's so true. I mean, my two older ones are editing their own videos, and they started when they
Right.
were like 11, 10, and I couldn't even fathom learning that at that age.
Right. The capabilities of the technology wasn't as facile as it is today. And if anyone's ever, who's listening, has ever edited video, it is another form of storytelling. Writing is a form of storytelling, but when you have video and you're trying to time things and tell a story with visuals and sound and words, three things going on at the same time, it's a completely different form of storytelling that really sort of forces the mind to think in different ways. Creative. I remember I worked at a television network prior to coming to Publicis, and I was always impressed when I would sit down with a video editor and they'd be editing a project that I was producing, and they just had this sort of vision that I never even didn't even dawn on me to think in that direction. And again, it's just a form of storytelling that people have a skill for and others don't. But again, like every kid learns how to read now, every kid's learning how to video edit.
Yeah, that's very true. And they know how to use their iPads or computers at such a young age, too.
Mhm. Right.
So, what has been your biggest struggle or challenge with being a parent in tech?
It's probably the answer you've heard from everybody. And I don't think it's exclusive to tech, but it's time. Who do you know today that says, oh, I've got all the time in the world? Nobody. But you also hear the warning signs of the person who made all this money and they're on their deathbed and goes, wish I spend more time with my kids. So I'm always, even though I'm working my tail off, I'm always trying to force myself to do something with kids. And if the kids want to do something, unless it's something crazy critical I have to do, I just stop.
Mm.
And, I play with the kids and we go out and we do something. But I definitely want to do more of that as well. You're never doing enough of that as you would like to.
Yeah, it always feels that way for sure.
Yeah. And I just think it's more so today than ever before. My dad made a lot of time for me, which was great.
That is really great. You mentioned having to work, but also spending time with kids. How do you set those boundaries?
Well, I work out of home. I have always worked. I worked out of home before the pandemic and after the pandemic. So, I have an office here in my home. There really aren't hard boundaries unless when I'm recording and I let the family know I'm recording, don't interrupt me. They can interrupt me anytime. I don't care. I'm not one of these people who have this very sort of rigid feeling about I'm working now, don't bother me. Only time is when I'm recording. That's it. But that's easy to avoid.
Yeah, so you can work around it.
Yeah. And again, unless I'm in a meeting, unless I'm recording, I can stop and pretty much do anything. And again, unless something's crazy critical that I have to do at that very moment, which is not often the case. I'm usually in a situation where I can always sort of break away.
That's nice. That's nice to have that flexibility and to be willing to do that.
Yeah, well, it also helps when you run your own business too. As you can call your own shots.
Yeah, for sure. Just to go into a little bit about like you running your own business, how did you start doing that? That's fascinating.
So when I left Publicis, when I was working with you, and for those of you listening, Publicis is an ad agency. It's a huge agency, but the one we work with shut down, which the writing was on the wall when I was leaving. So it was pretty clear it was going to collapse. I remember that there was this one woman who was the CEO of, I think, the other organization, one of the other satellite offices, and she spoke to our group and she was so ludicrously nervous. And I was like, this does not look good.
Yeah.
It's like somebody does not have a poker face here because this does not look good at all. But when I left that, I was trying to figure out what to do. And I ended up literally, I think about 6 months after just starting my own business. So that was the beginning of 2007, which was a content marketing agency. It was all just me at the time. I had lots of contractors that I hired here and there, but I never hired anyone full time. This thing, the CISO Series podcast, this crept out of because I was working with a lot of cybersecurity vendors at the time. And I had a situation where they were all trying to sell to this one demographic in cybersecurity, the CISO. And I had a lot of CISO friends too at the time that were getting hammered by vendors. And I realized there was this sort of struggle that was going on between buyers and sellers in the marketplace. So I started writing about it. It hit a nerve in the industry. I approached this one guy who was very well known in the space. He, at the time, was the CISO of Lyft, the car sharing service, a guy by the name of Mike Johnson. And I took him out to lunch. I go, how'd you like to do a podcast with me? And he goes, I want to do it, but I'm fearful of all the work it'll take. And I go, you know what? Don't worry about it. I'll do all the work. I just need you to show up. And it was key because he's really well known in the space. Like David Spark giving you cybersecurity advice, nobody wants to listen to that because I'm not a CISO. I'm not but this guy, Mike Johnson, extremely knowledgeable. So I just produced a show, co-hosted, and it was just me setting the ball up and he's spiking. But we would bring a guest on also as well. Anyways, after 4 episodes, by episode 5, the show got its first sponsors and then it's been nonstop. And then we just kept building shows and building shows. I started at June 1st of 2018. I was on another platform. It wasn't my own platform, but I knew it was building up so much steam that I didn't need to stick on that platform. So I left. So by October 1st of 2018, I officially opened CISO Series as a site and a business. And then we've just been growing. I mean, I've got a nice staff now, tons of contractors, and we got 5 shows on the network and we drop 8 to 10 episodes every single week of shows. And we're working on the 6th one. And we're going through, I have audition tapes that I've listened to all, but I need the rest of my team to listen to the rest because I want to have discussions with them about it. But we have definitely good people that are going to be auditioning the 6th show. So looking forward to launching.
Wow, that's amazing. And so did they audition to be a guest on the show?
No, to be the host.
Oh, to be the host. Wow.
This show isn't good. Well, it's going to have guests. They'll have the sponsors will be guests of the show, but essentially they're going to be explaining a technology to people. That's the thing. And then the other thing is, we are in a crowded space. There's a lot going on in cybersecurity. There are other media sites, but not a ton. We do have competition, but not a ton of competition. And we also tried very, very hard to differentiate ourselves from the competition. And kind of our big differentiator is, I think, we're a lot more fun than the competition. That's it.
That's very important.
Yes.
Nobody wants to listen to boring people.
No, I hope so. And we also try to produce things well. But we've become like the darlings in the industry. It's been great. And I've said this, I made this joke many times on our show. We constantly get compliments from people in the industry. They love our shows. And I've said to my co-hosts, I go, I've learned something about myself is that I have a very high tolerance for compliments, that I can take a lot of them.
That's a great quality to have.
Yes. I've yet to find my limit.
Especially when you're getting all these compliments.
Do you get compliments from your listeners? Do you know your listeners at all, Chow?
I know some of them.
What do they say to you about the show?
They say they learn a lot about, parenting, about parents and tech and stuff, and they hear a lot of people that they know, and then when they hear that other side of them, they're just like, "Wow, there's this whole other side that I hadn't heard from them before."
Well, I got to assume, and this has come up a lot. I got to assume that parents and dealing like this is the chronic problem. Parents dealing with screen time and their kids. I'm sure this topic's come up again and
Yes.
again and again on the show. And my feeling is every parent feels that they've lost this. Yes,
Yes.
we all feel that we've lost.
We
There's no way to control it.
we all start off very optimistic, right? When they're born, it's like,
Optimistic,
"Okay,
thinking
no."
that we can buy a piece of technology that will fix it for us. There is, by the way, we've tried these things. There was one tool we used called Bark. Has anyone mentioned that one on your show? Bark. It's something that you like plug into your router, and holy crap, it screwed up our cell phones like you wouldn't believe, which were not connected to the router. It made everything a nightmare with it. Like it screwed up a whole mess of other technology, and I was like, we're yanking this thing. This thing has caused so many problems. The big thing was the cell phones. It really screwed up the cell phones. And so it's interesting. I reached out so because of my show, I know a lot of cybersecurity professionals. So I just asked them, first I was looking for that technical solution. Can anyone recommend anything that will solve this problem of screen time, preventing your kids going to bad sites? And again, this comes up again and again. And again, this comes from cybersecurity professionals, people who should know the answer to this question. And I hate to break it to you, Chow, there is no good answer. And honestly, the answer was, and this is not what anyone listening is going to want to hear. The answer is you actually have to talk to your kids about this stuff. That is the answer. It is not actually technology solutions, which we wish we could. By the way, we've used a bunch of these, and they all eventually just break down and fall apart. I mean, have you tried some of these? Yes, and just watched them all fall apart.
I haven't tried yet. I just tried to talk to them.
Let me save you the angst and the stress. They all fall apart. You start, you think, oh, we've got this all set up. It's working. I've limited them to 1 to 2 hours of screen time a day, whatever the heck you say. It all falls apart. All does.
So did you end up just talking to them about it?
We've talked to them again, but there are certain things that we've been able on their Google devices, we've been able to put limits on when they can go on and when they can go off, and then what applications. So Google is the closest best solution because it does have certain boundaries you can control, but other stuff, not so good.
Yeah, it's hard, because I don't want to be the mom to just look through their phones all the time. I don't look through their
No, you don't want
phones,
to do
but
that.
you do kind of worry.
So years and years ago, before I even started, I think at Publicis, I think it might have, oh no, maybe it was after Publicis. I wrote an article about parents sort of monitoring kids and this technology that could monitor like keystrokes and stuff.
Mhm.
And I just remember, and I didn't have kids at the time, and I just thought, I don't want to have this relationship with my kids. Like I don't want to be so suspicious of them
Yeah.
that I have to do this clandestine so they don't know. And it just seemed like an ugly, ugly way of doing it. But there's a market for it. There's an audience for it.
Yeah.
You want to trust your kids so this doesn't become an issue.
Right. Exactly.
And by the way, it's no one conversation. You don't have the one conversation go, I'm done. I'm
All
the perfect
good.
parent. All good. Do you ever have you ever have that feeling? One conversation, perfect, and you realize, no, it's not one conversation. We can do this again and again and again.
It's never one conversation. Even if it's like, don't draw on the wall, that's also 2 or 3
Oh, no,
conversations
it's more than
sometimes.
that. I've said this. All parents say the same thing to their kids again and again and again. Part of the job of being a parent.
Yeah, and growing up, you're like, I'm not going to be that person. And then once you have kids, you're like, oh, they forced me to
Oh
be
God,
that
we all
person.
see ourselves and our parents like as we get older, like, holy crap, I'm acting just like my dad. This
Yeah, exactly.
But the big difference, here's the big difference. The big difference between my dad, probably your parents as well, is I'm assuming your parents not technically savvy. Yes?
My dad is, but not
Really?
my mom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does your dad work in technology?
He did.
Okay. So that my parents not at all. In fact, we have a game on our show called What is My Mom Talking About? Yeah, here. In fact, for your benefit and for everyone's listeners' benefits, listen to this.
What is Dave's mom talking about?
The entire premise of this game is, and by the way, kudos to my mom for playing along, is that in all technology, there are terms that only the people in the industry know. So for your work, you don't expect your friends who are not in your industry know. So for example, same thing with cybersecurity. There are terms for different types of cybersecurity threats and different types of technology that only the people in the industry would know. So the way this game is played is I actually interviewed my mom and I said things like, Mom, explain what a botnet is. Now, she doesn't know what a botnet is. Okay. She doesn't have any clue what a botnet is. And she knows she doesn't know what a botnet is. But I said, just from hearing those words, botnet, please do your best explanation of what that is. So she then explains it, which is highly, highly confusing to anyone who doesn't know what it is. In fact, just give people a clue of that. Here's my mother's explanation of what a botnet is. By the way, I just want to stress this answer is completely wrong.
That's the very bottom of national advice.
That is not what a botnet is. But that's my mother explaining what a botnet is. So the game is, by the way, I wouldn't explain that. I would play that clip from my mom to, and we're going to be playing this soon. So before this episode airs. And my guests and my co-hosts need to try to guess, you know what this term is, but my mom is not explaining it well. So do some a little reverse logic here. If you had heard this word for the first time, how would you explain it? And that's going to be the game.
That's so cute. I love that idea. And your mom is such a good sport for playing along with it.
She totally played. I set her up. I said, Mom, I want to do a game with you. Will you do it? And my mom, being a good sport, goes, yes, whatever it is. And I said, Mom, remember you said that.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, she's an older woman, did not grow up in the age of technology. Let's just say there's many explanations. And so it's one of those things when it's revealed, you start to see the logic in my mother's head of like how she came up with
like,
that.
Oh, yeah.
I guess, yeah, if I didn't know what a botnet is, maybe I would call it that. Or I would explain it, that's what it is.
So is she on all the recurring episodes? And then you...
No, this is a brand new game we just started introducing.
But then you'll have her on multiple times.
I'll have her on a few episodes. It's not going to be a bunch of them.
I'm sure the listeners will ask for more of her.
Oh yeah. Well, we'll see how it goes. But I've played it. I played it in front of a live audience. We have a live streaming audience too. But I'm going to do it, bringing it to a different show too as well.
That's awesome.
So we'll see. We'll see how that goes over.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. Once this episode airs, that will be aired already. So then we'll link to that.
It will have already aired. Do you know what a botnet is, Chow?
I was afraid you were going to ask me because I almost wanted to Google it before you asked me.
No. Bot is short for robot. It's a network of sort of robot computers or slave computers that are controlled by somebody else to send massive campaigns. So they could be, a distributed denial of service. That's when you send a ton of traffic to a single site, or it could be to spread out malware, phishing attacks, whatever. But the idea is it's distributed. And by making it distributed, this whole network, it's very, very hard to catch where it's coming from because, they're all acting like slaves, these computers, and there's a master that sort of sends them out. So as you can tell, my explanation, very different than my mother's explanation.
See, I had heard of bots, but not botnet. And so when you said botnet, I was like,
but it makes sense. Like robot,
yeah.
A network of bots, that kind of
once you. So what are some things that you struggle with at your kids' current ages of 13 and 10?
Well, my kids are not hyper athletic, although the younger one more so than the older one. I mean, they're great kids, but like when I was a kid, you just did sports. Like everyone did basketball. Everyone played Little League. Everyone played soccer. It was like as regular and assumed as taking English and math. And it's not the same at their age. Things are far more splintered. There's 1,000 more sports. I live in Southern California, so honest to God, skateboarding and surfing are sport options out here. So it's very different. And I also think that playing on a team definitely teaches you critical life skills, which I don't think my kids are really getting because they don't play on a sports team, but they do group projects. But a sports team is a different egg. Did you play team sports yourself, or do you still play team sports, may I ask yourself?
I don't play team sports, but I did do swimming, which was team, kind of.
Okay. So, well, swimming is very much an independent thing. But besides swimming, did you play any other team sports when you were growing up or no?
No.
Nothing. Okay.
So I'm in the same category as your kids.
Are your kids athletic?
They're not very athletic, and we've been trying to get them to do more sports because I didn't do it, so I know the importance of it. I feel like they should do it.
It's also just again, I go back to the thing that when I was growing up, it's just like my wife often will ask him, "Do you want to do this?" And like when I was growing up, it wasn't even asked. It was like, "Oh, it's like you're in Little League now." Okay, like the thought didn't even cross my mind to say no. So it's like, oh yeah, I'm doing Little League, I guess, because doesn't every boy do Little League? And the answer is no, they don't. But back when I was growing up, yes, every boy did do Little League. And I was no great athlete by any stretch, but I'm glad I did it all.
Yeah, I think kids now have a lot of choices. We ask them everything and they always say no. And my husband's like, don't ask them, just make them do it. So now
I'm on the same page as husband because a lot of times, most of the time, they don't know what they're saying no to.
Right.
It's like, do you want to do this? The thing you know nothing about, do you want to do it? That you have no knowledge of, do you want to? Like, of course the kid's going to say no. I don't know what that is. No, just make the kid do it. And again, see how far it goes. And after a certain period of time, then, I took piano lessons. I was no good at it. After a while, there was an end to that too.
But you tried it, that's what's important.
I tried it, yes. And it was just like, it was also, I came from a house, it was assumed you play sports, you learn how to play the piano, that kind of thing. We had a piano, so you learn how to play it.
Yeah.
Do you play a musical instrument yourself?
I play piano as well.
At what age did you learn?
I started at 5 and
Holy
then I
crap.
left in high school.
Oh, so you became quite accomplished.
Yeah, so I was doing it for quite a while, all of my childhood.
So how did piano sort of play into your life? And are your kids playing instruments?
We try to get them to play piano, and they did it for a while, and they really did not like it. So they've quit.
Really?
But for me, it's like a skill that I now love to have. Like when I go to my parents' house, they still have the piano. Then I can just play on my own on the
Well,
weekends.
do you at least have a keyboard in your house?
I do have a keyboard. Yes.
Okay.
That's what we try to get the kids to play.
I was shocked. We bought a keyboard just to do that. They're unbelievably cheap. I couldn't believe how cheap they are.
A lot cheaper than back in the day.
Yes, a lot cheaper. Yeah, well, a lot of electronics are a lot cheaper than back in the day.
Absolutely. And to your point of like kids, we got our kids into Taekwondo. And when I asked them, they weren't really into it. And then I was like, no, I'm going to force you to do it because self-defense, And now they love it.
Is your kids still in it?
Yeah, they are.
That's great because both of my oldest did it for a very brief period of time. I don't think my youngest ever did it, but it was extremely brief. But that happens all the time. You get a kid into something and then they get out.
Yeah, until they find something they like.
I think that would probably be the thing that struggle with just those extracurriculars. Because, you hear about the other parents. We're on the other side of the spectrum. The parents that are over subscribing their kids and they're constantly shuttling their kids. And I talk to other parents who just seem like they're full-time shuttles for their kids to everything. This one woman who I know is actually related to my wife. Her kids are quite accomplished gymnasts. And because of it, they go like 4 days a week for like 3-4 hours at a time training gymnastics. And, she just camps out there. And I have another friend, similar thing. You adjust your life and your work schedule. I mean, they do work at the gym, not the most ideal location, but that's what they do.
Wow.
What's your shuttling situation?
See, that's impressive. For us, it's like we just have Taekwondo on Tuesdays, Thursdays. Otherwise, it's taking the kids to school, picking them up. And I'm already like, that's a lot. That's a lot for me.
That is a lot. That is a lot. We similarly, like my son does after school things like he likes Dungeons and Dragons, which is something I did when I was a kid too, at his age as well. And my other son, we have him doing some extra sort of to help with his writing, just getting him up to speed. We have some extra tutoring that we're doing for him as well. But how many years are your kids? All 3 kids are doing Taekwondo? By the way, do you or your husband, have you studied martial arts?
We did when we were younger.
Yeah.
But
And for how many years
since.
did you do that?
I think I did it for about 4 years.
Okay. And see, I studied also when I lived in my 20s, I studied Kung Fu, thoroughly enjoyed it. And then I tried to find a decent school when I moved to the Bay Area. I was living in Chicago at the time, and I never found a school that was good. I remember going to one school, they were out of Richmond district. They had cats everywhere. I'm highly allergic to cats.
Oh my gosh.
It was like, It was a studio just filled with cats and was disgusting. And then there was another one that was more of a factory. They really weren't working with individuals. It was more about getting more bodies in there. And so I never, the Chicago experience was great. And I loved, and also proximity has a lot to do with how long you stick with things. Like this place was like a 10-minute walk from my house. And I just never found the right solution. So sadly, I never kept it up. I did that for probably, I'm going to say probably 3 years. I did that 2 or 3 years.
You're pretty consistent with it.
But I was in my 20s at that time. What about your husband? Did he do it?
I think he did it for a little bit, but I don't remember how long.
But let me ask you, do you or your husband do any physical exercise, play sports as adults? And have you gotten your kids into it?
He plays pickleball, and he takes the kids to play pickleball. He helps.
So the kids
teach them.
play pickleball, and he's taught the kids pickleball.
Yeah, they just play with him.
So I'm having a little bit of an experience like that now, as I played lacrosse when I was in high school. And living in San Diego, we don't have much when it comes to professional sports. We got the Padres and they stink. And I'm not a huge baseball fan, but we have a professional indoor lacrosse league. And also the tickets don't cost a fortune. It's actually ludicrously cheap. And we've actually really gotten into it. And he's gotten into it. So, it actually took him some prodding to see if he wanted to start learning how to play lacrosse. And he finally did. So got a lacrosse stick. And all we're doing right now is passing and throwing. And he's actually at the age where they now actually have leagues for his age. So we'll be looking into that. But I think more of the situation was I hadn't played since I was 18. I hadn't picked up a stick, thrown or catch. And I was like surprised with myself. I'm like, holy crap, I can still do this. Still throw and catch the ball with a lacrosse stick. I was more impressed with myself. I could still do it.
That's an awesome feeling for sure.
Is there anything that you did when you were a teenager that you all of a sudden picked up again as an adult, and either you could do it or couldn't do it, that either gave you elation or like, oh, that sucks, I can't do this anymore? Anything?
Like even just playing piano, because I used to play every day and then I stopped for a really long time. And then when I go to my parents' house and I open up the piano book, I'm like, can I do it? Is it going to be an embarrassment? Can I still, and then once I can play the whole song, I'm like, oh,
So
I feel pretty great about myself.
what is the kind of music that you played? Was it classical? I mean, that's kind of the thing to accomplish on the piano. What was it that you enjoyed?
Yeah, there was classical music, there was pop music,
Mm.
pop back in the day,
Mhm.
like the song from Robin Hood,
Okay.
Prince of Thieves. We used to play that all the time. And so when I can play that now, I'm happy. So yeah, just a variety of songs.
Interesting. My son has an electric drum set and a single snare drum, of which he still hasn't had lessons yet. And he hasn't. I'm like, he started to watch some YouTube videos. He still can't do it. We're happy to get him lessons on it, but he hasn't shown the motivation yet. But hopefully one day.
But the fact that he's learning through YouTube videos, he's willing to.
That is, again, something our kids have that we don't have. By the way, I'm sure your kids are the same way, because most kids are like this. They don't know what a network television is. Why should they care that something's on at 8 p.m. on a Thursday? Everything's available right now whenever I want to watch it, right?
Right.
So my kids don't watch any regular program TV at all. None. I got to assume. Same with yours, yes?
Yeah, the same. The only one they watched was Super Bowl, because we're like, we need to sit down and watch this together. And when the commercials come up, they're just like, why are these ads so long? Why can't I skip them?
Yeah, they did.
Sorry,
I know.
buddy.
Yeah, I mean, I said this a number of years ago, but if you're a network television, and essentially all the network television, they know this, but all that is doing at this point is dying. It's not adding new customers. It's, and yes, there's all these online sites, and, you can't have a subscription to all of them. So you got to pick and choose. And then you rotate, like, well, I'm done with this. Maybe I'll try this because it has this show that everyone's talking about.
And there's so many, right? So many different.
Although, because of some changes, we had Disney, which is like, you got to have Disney if you have kids. But we actually dropped it, and we're actually working fine without Disney. I'm assuming you got to have Disney, yes?
We had a Disney Plus, right? And then we canceled it because we ended up not using it as much as we thought we would.
Well, that's the thing. We weren't using it as much, but because I got a bundle through Verizon, and because of something I changed in the bundle, we ended up dropping Disney. And then, yeah, we don't really need it. Again, most of their content is from YouTube.
Exactly. The things they watch on YouTube, I'm always fascinated. How do you even find all of that? They do.
Well, are you familiar? So I know we're coming close to the end, but are you familiar with a conference known as VidCon? Do you know what that is?
Mm-mm.
So VidCon it's actually something I do that's outside of my regular work, and it's a conference that happens. It's a conference that happens all over the world, in different places all over the world. But the big one happens in Anaheim, California, which is where Disneyland is. And it's a conference for people who create online video content across all these platforms. So Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever. And so it's for the fans of the people who've become celebrities on these platforms. It's for people who want to become a successful creator themselves. And it's also for all these brands and agencies that want to work with successful creators to promote their brand through their channels as well. The net result of all of this is the people who attend are 10 to 22 in terms of ages, and they are gaga going crazy for these online video personalities that I have no clue who the heck they are, but they're rock stars in their world. Completely. Have your kids ever met any of these personalities that they watch?
No, not yet. But did you bring your kids to that? Were they able to meet?
So I actually work the event. So the guy who used to be the CEO of the company was actually my boss at a previous company before I was a publicist. And we became very good friends. We were actually neighbors. And they have a whole sponsored session. So I run all the sponsored sessions during the conference. So because I work the event, I can get my kids in, as well. And the fact that I have a hotel room, my kids can stay there. And it turns out my oldest one has been bored of it. My youngest one loves it, absolutely goes nuts because he gets to see, he's fans of tons of these personalities and he goes crazy and he has a great time. So he's going to be coming again. And he has absolute blast during the entire
That's
show.
awesome.
But if your kids are real fans, you should come to this event. It's coming up if people are listening to this, what's June 14th, the event happens 2 weeks after this episode will drop.
Oh, okay.
It's the end of June.
Cool.
Yeah.
We'll put a link to it as well, just so people have access to that.
So yeah, vidcon.com. It's a fun event if you're interested in these YouTube. The reason I bring it up is the line I've always said, if you ever want to feel completely out of touch with the youth of today, go to VidCon. Because you just sit there and you're like, I'm an old what?
Yeah.
I don't get this.
Yeah, sometimes we'll watch something and there will be a few YouTubers in there and my kids are like, that's so and so, that's so, and I can't. They know every single person.
There's 1,000 more that they don't watch that are also crazy popular. We're clueless. And that's the thing. I think about it like my parents didn't understand any of the pop culture I was into. And now I'm my parents because I don't get what they get into. And I'm like,
It is what it is. And then our kids, they'll have their time too.
right. And I've said this to my kids. I go, well, it's my job as a parent to hate the music you listen to. So whatever it is, I'm going to hate it. But my parents hated my music. So. And then I'm sure, it's just generational. That's how it works,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. So the last question I like to ask is just what would you tell someone who's planning to have kids, or what's something you wish you knew before you had kids?
Here's my number one tip, and it's something that we did, and I'm ecstatic we did it, and I can't stress enough. Now, we don't do it to nearly the degree we used to, but we did it definitely for our kids, first 8 to 9 years of life. And that is shoot a video of them every single day of their life. Every single day. I have this amazing archive of my kids' life of videos we've shot, just 30 to 60 seconds every day. And I have an organization where, I mark the date of it on the file name and stuff and organize it in folders. And that's the key thing. If you're going to do this, have an organization system. It is not as tough a project as you might think. I literally would spend about an hour a month on this project. I get the videos from my wife's phone and my phone, and I sort of collect them and then sort of organize and pick the ones, and then I'd save them and I would share them with family members and whatnot. But then every now and then I would go through a bunch of videos and when Mother's Day comes up, I would make a sort of a Mother's Day video, highlight reel type thing. Speaking of that is coming up. I should be thinking about doing just that. But my wife and I would just look at it and we go, wow, I am so glad we did this. This was the smartest thing we did because people shoot videos, but I'm telling you, every single day at the beginning. I just saw another compilation of something we did. Forgot what the kids look like. I'm sure you look at your kids a few years ago, and it's a distant memory.
Because they change so quickly. They grow up so fast.
Right. Yeah. I don't even remember who that child was because you only know the version of them today. You don't know the version of them 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Who is that kid? I barely remember that
That's
one.
such a neat idea. How did you come up with that?
I don't know. We just started doing it from day one. Like we literally didn't miss a day.
Wow.
And then as they got older, we got a little lazier about it. But like now we barely do it. But I keep saying like, oh, we got to keep doing it. But here's the big thing is what I want to do is literally hand them a hard drive and go, here's your life. Just go look at it. This is you. This is you. And so it's this video diary of their life. And that's like the big gift that we want to give to our kids is just keeping this spectacular archive of their entire life. And yeah, it's pretty astonishing. And we just love going back and looking at it. And what I wish I did do that I don't have enough time for is making more of these compilations of the videos. But I have done it. But that reminds me, I got to work on the Mother's Day video this year. It takes me a number of hours. It'll take me between 3 to 5 hours to put it together.
Wow.
But it's worth it. It's totally worth it.
Yeah, that's so neat that you do that. I think anyone that's listening about to have kids needs to do that.
Yeah, I can't stress this enough. Like, there's a fear that it's going to take so much time. I keep saying this is the absolute best project we ever did. Totally the best project. And it's not too late to start again.
Yeah, it's going to be the best gift.
Our blame is that we don't do it every day now. Like, well, we'll shoot a video now. Maybe it could be once a week now. It's like, maybe. Got to do it every day. Every day, 36. Just whatever they're doing, pull out your camera. Just hit record. And then after a month, collect the videos, go through them, figure out which ones you want to keep. Because not all of them are gems.
Yeah, that's amazing. Even though my kids are a little bit older now than before.
Yeah, they're still growing. They're still
that.
entertaining.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, David, so much for talking to me today and sharing so much wisdom, so much great ideas too. Thank you.
I was thrilled to be on, and I'm sorry it's been so long since we've seen each other and chatted.
Yeah, it's been, I don't even know how many years.
Decades. By the way, for those of you who didn't know Chow from over 2 decades ago, when it was 2 decades ago, you look exactly the same.
Thank you. You do too.
Thank you. I wasn't fishing for a compliment, but you do really look exactly the same.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining us today on Parenthood Bites. We hope you found our episode informative and entertaining. If you're a parent in the tech world or know someone who is, we'd love to hear from you. Please reach out to us at chow@parenthoodbites.co, and we'll be thrilled to add your experiences to our interviews. That's chow, CHIAO, @parenthoodbites.co. And to our potential sponsors out there, if you're a business or know of one that would like to support and partner with our podcast, please don't hesitate to get in touch. You can also reach us at chow@parenthoodbites.co. Thank you once again for tuning in, and we wish you a fantastic rest of your week. Until next time, take care and stay curious.